Yes, I see that my mobile phone is now sort of a minute ahead of what laptop time is, so I don't know whether the laptops are perhaps starting to lag behind on cell phones now. But certainly we are at 1 o'clock, whichever is the slowest time. So I would like to say good afternoon. This is the meeting of the Standing Committee on Education that is meeting today on Thursday, the 20th of February, 2025. And we are meeting, having a virtual meeting via MS Teams. So I would like to say good afternoon to all the members of the Department of Education, and like to welcome everyone to the meeting. I think just by way of a round of introductions, I think if we can just go around the room and everyone can introduce himself. We'll start with the members, and then we will welcome the officials from the Western Cape Education Department, led by Mr. Leon Eli. So I am Leon van Wyk. I am the chair of the Standing Committee on Education.
Hi, good morning, colleagues. My name is Noko Masipa. I am the alternate on this portfolio committee. I'm standing in for Honorable Wendy Philander. Thank you.
Afternoon, Chair, and good afternoon to the colleagues and the officials. I'm Emery Boyson, and I'm a member of the Standing Committee. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair and everyone. My name is Rachel Van Vogel, and I'm an alternative on this committee. Thank you.
Member Walters, I see you are there. Are you able to unmute? Okay, I think we'll try and reach Member Walters in due course. I'm going to hand over to you, Mr. Eli, and then also just to introduce your team.
Good afternoon to the members of the Oversight Committee. My name is Leon Eli. I'm the CFO, but also the DG Corporate Services in the Department of Education. I have two of my colleagues here, Mr. Zuki Mpizi here, and also Mr. Indavega. If they can just also introduce themselves, Chairperson. Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Good afternoon, Chair, and the members, Zukisani Mpisi, and Chief Directorate Financial Management. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair. Ian De Vega, in the Chief Directorate Business Intelligence Management. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Mr. De Vega. Before I ask the other officials to introduce themselves, I know there are apologies from Minister Mania and from the head of department, Mr. Brent Walters, and from Member Christians, also apologies. And as indicated, we've got two members who are alternates for sitting members, Syed and Kaiser Philander. I'm just trying to see, I don't see Member Walters on the platform anymore, so I think I'll just hand over to you, Ms. Hassan Musa, to introduce yourself, and for the other officials as well.
Thank you, Chair. Wasima Hassan Musa, Procedural Officer for the Standing Committee on Education. I'm supported by Mary Ann Burgess. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that. This afternoon, we are meeting to receive a briefing from the Western Cape Education Department on an update on the quarterly performance reports. We have now passed the third quarter of the financial year, and we look forward to receiving a report both on the financial and non-financial indicators and performance so far during this year. I think where we are sitting right now, we've already passed the halfway mark in our fourth quarter, and certainly we look forward to receiving an update on the department, and we are, I think as a committee, we are fully aware of the stresses and strains and financial constraints that the department faces, along with the additional learners that have come into the system. So I think I'll hand over to you, Mr. Eli, but I see Member Walters has now joined us. So just before I hand over to you and your team, Member Walters can perhaps just indicate his attendance. Thank you.
Thomas Walters, member of the committee.
Thank you very much, Member Walters. So over to you, Mr. Eli.
Yeah, thank you, Chairperson. We have prepared a presentation. I think it has been sent to the Secretariat. I'm not sure if the Secretariat needs to flight it or if you require us to flight the presentation. But just to say, Chairperson, that the presentation is in two parts. The one part is around the spending performance, and in the second part, it's around obviously our quarter performance reporting, which Mr. De Vega will do. So the first part, the spending performance, Mr. Mpisi will do. And in the second part, Mr. Ian De Vega will do as well. I see, Chairperson, you've got Ms. Musa's hand up. Thank you.
Yes, yeah, I'm just looking forward to that hand. Thank you. Just to see who will be flighting the presentations.
Chair, I would request that Mr. Eli's office flight it because I'm taking the minutes for this meeting. It would just be best that way. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Right, I can see the presentation has been flighted, so I think we are ready to go. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson. Over to Mr. Mpisi. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Eli. Chair, I'm not going to put my camera on if you do not mind in the committee. I'll just proceed with the presentation from here. So as alluded by Mr. Eli, it's in two parts. I'm only doing part one, which is the spending performance as at 31st of December 2024. So this is the picture. So here in this slide, Chair, we've got 7 programs. We are providing you with a picture, including the projections that we make that provides us targets to know where we are planning to be and where we are. So you would see that when you're looking at all the programs we have spent up until 31st December, our budget 75.1%. And on administration side, our target was 69.6 and we were at 70.1. Public ordinary schools was at 75.8 and we landed exactly at the mark that we had projected. Independent schools, same, you would see our spend versus our target is closely aligned. Public special schools, we had a target of spending more and we ended up spending less. It's covered in the next slide, but the reasons was because there is special material that is used by learners with autism spectrum disorder and learners with profound intellectual disabilities. So certain materials were provided from via the school. So we needed to enter into legal agreements with the school to be able to transfer some funds to them. So the process took longer because of the schools vetting the contracts. So that is the main reason why we had a lower spending. Then on early childhood development, mostly as part of the biggest expenditure there, you've got expenditure related to subsidies. So we also processed subsidies on par with our target. And then in terms of infrastructure development, what happened there was there were projects that could not be either started or could not proceed in 23-24 that eventually were rolled over to 24-25. So part of the higher expenditure, it's because of the delayed capital expenditure, which initial challenges were work stoppage orders because of health and safety concerns, where projects remained in planning for much longer than we had anticipated. So all those projects at this point in time have performed better in the current year, pushing more in terms of our expenditure. Then in terms of the last program, examination and education-related services, so as part of the NSC, we appoint markers. So normally our markers would finish their payments around January and February of each year. So this year we had much of an efficient process where we actually processed the claims much faster, and that resulted in having the higher expenditure around your examination and education-related services. But despite that picture, we still remained within the target, and we are still on track in terms of the overall program. So another major reason on program 7, it's also the tariffs that were increased in line with cost of living adjustments. And also in certain subjects, we had to appoint additional markers. Now, in terms of the spending performance on conditional grants, Chair, on the first one, which is the nutrition NSNP, our spending was 76.6%. And in terms of the business plan, the target was to spend 79%. The real reason there, it's the lacking of the invoices. So the December invoices would have been spent at this point in time, processed at this point in time in January. So that was the mere reason around having a lower performance than planned. Then in terms of the EPWP incentive grant, also performed better because more gardeners were trained around that area. Then in terms of maths and science technology grant, we had a little bit of a slope there at 62.7% as to the target of 71%. And the major reasons are related to procurement. At this point in time, procurement, there has been purchase orders that have been issued. So we are on track in terms of 100% spending there. Then learners with profound intellectual disabilities grant, the target was 86%, and we have spent so far 63.8%. And one of the contributing factors was the issue of the legal agreements with the schools, but the second one was also the national transversal contract, which took late to be concluded by national. It has been now concluded from the 1st of December. So that has also been sorted at this point in time. Then early childhood grant, mainly there. The reason for the spending being lower than the target, it's the portion of the grant which is related to the maintenance, which has been fully spent now in the February month. The other portion, which is the subsidies, it is on track. So that was the reason for the lower performance there. Education infrastructure grant, the spending on par, it's linked to the infrastructure development in terms of projects that rolled over from the previous year, of which the performance is much better. Then the EPWP integrated grant for provinces. This particular grant, the dependency to spend it is dependent on the Department of Infrastructure, who needs to provide the list of projects to which we can be able to participate in terms of the EPWP. So there was delays around getting the list of projects and also the certification process before we could able to spend this grant. At this point in time, there has been commitments in terms of improving the spending of that grant. HIV and AIDS, the reason it's also lower than the target, when one looks at the right-hand side, the two columns which I'm referring to, it's mainly also because of the procurement delays, which at this point in time are being sorted. So in terms of the spend on overall conditional grants, we are at 78%. And in terms of the business plan on average, we're looking to be at 73%. There is conversations that are ongoing from top management to follow up with responsibility managers and project managers to ensure that we can fully spend 100% on these conditional grants. So I have also provided additional reasons on the additional slide for the reading for the members. Now, the second last slide, Chairperson, just gives you a comparison in terms of the spending performance as at 31 December versus 31 December 2023. So you will see at this point in time, we are at 75.1%. The previous time, third quarter, 31st December 2023, we're at 75.7%. And available to spend is 24.9%, which is 7.8 billion. And the previous year, it was 24.3. So we are kind of on track in terms of where we were and where we are. And we also give a concept of the movement from original budget to adjusted budget, that it was just a rollover for mod feeding, which is fully committed in terms of spending, with an adjustment due to an anticipated shortfall on COE, compensation of employees, which we got funding for that, as well as we reprioritized within our own budget in order to be able to supplement the projected shortfall. We also had a conditional grant increase, which consisted of budget facility investment, which is BFI, as well as disaster funding. So those were the key elements that increased our budget to 31 billion from 30 billion. So that is the context in terms of where we are in the quarter. So just to give a conclusion, we are on track when we are comparing the performance at the 31st of December point in time. Few areas of concerns, such as your conditional grants, spending performance. We are having mechanisms of intervening by arranging meetings with responsibility managers, finding the root cause, and also providing support. So we are on track to spending 100% due to the various interventions that we are implementing. And top management, it's a very active structure, which is requesting constant reports in terms of tracking spending performance. So we continue as well to comply with various reporting requirements from national and provincial treasury, who are also having an interest in terms of monitoring the spending per month, quarterly, as well as in comparison to where we were the previous time. So that completes my presentation, Chair, of part 1, and I can hand over to Mr. Divega. Chair allows.
Thanks very much. I think we can continue. Thanks, Mr. PC.
Thank you, Chair. I'll just share my presentation as well from my side.
Thank you. I can see that.
Is that visible, Chair?
That's excellent.
Thank
the
you.
bigger, the better for us. Thank you.
Okay. So, Chair, I'm also going to keep my camera off just in terms of, connectivity issues. So if we just some introductory remarks. So obviously planning processes in WCED are aligned to the DPME frameworks, and the APP 2024-25, which is in question at the moment, has been submitted to all our oversight bodies as required, and we've also made this available on our website. And then, as regulated by National Treasury, we've established a quarterly performance reporting to our executive authority on the performance predetermined objectives, M&E, and corrective actions. And the QPR is based on APP quarterly annual targets that have been set by the department. This has also been submitted on a quarterly basis to .P, DBE, and DPME via the eQPR mechanism that has been set up by DPME. Then, Chair, this is just showcasing the monitoring of progress against targets are done according to the TIDs as outlined in our APP. And the team, which is our Directorate Business Strategy and Stakeholder Management, checks for accuracy and completeness of these reports against evidence received from the RMs or the responsibility managers. The responsibility managers itself also have business processes that validates and checks these information before it's submitted to the Directorate Business Strategy and Stakeholder Management. This is just at a very high level, the reporting requirements that we've stipulated for the responsibility managers. It's not exhaustive, but it kind of aligns to, the frameworks and best practice internationally. So just final introductory remarks is that we've set 52 annual performance targets as per the APP 2024-25. In-year amendments to the APP were tabled, which includes in large measures AG requirements that we right set, and then the inclusion of the MTSF indicators, which was an issue with the previous audit. So this presentation will only deal with amendments to indicator titles and targets affecting progress towards targets. So I thought it's also important that I share with the committee, what we've done to strengthen the oversight of PDOs. And as a department, we've been on a journey of strengthening the monitoring and reporting to align with SMART principles, DPME frameworks, and the international practices and best practices. And we see that as a journey because there's continuous learning within this process. So as we're strengthening the process, we've inculcated an evidence-based practice that kind of drives accountability and efficiency within the organization at the reporting level, but also in terms of how we use data and, in the organization. And I can see this only as a means of, improving our outcomes on performance information. But there are gaps. And, we're well aware of gaps, and we are actively addressing these through, very systematic approaches by putting business processes for reporting in place, as well as, the monitoring and oversight that comes with it. So, oh, sorry, I took that off. So in terms of, so we've worked with the business owners and the responsibility managers, and we've workshopped, our business processes in terms of how we're actually going to report on this. And I just want to systematically take the committee through these processes. So at the onset, we took our APP, which is our planning document, and everybody's aligned to a reporting on it. We identified whether the targets are, SMART and meet the objectives of the organization. We then reviewed the business processes and the technical indicator data sets. We've also ensured that the right responsibility manager was assigned for every indicator within our annual performance report. And then obviously we created the links and, the actual folders, a single centralized folder where every program manager and responsibility manager could access these information. Obviously, we do a pre-planning exercise, which we call an audit readiness assessment, prior to, the AG arriving. And this, we basically use previous year's AG management reports to flag what are the issues that were lacking, and then facilitate processes to obviously strengthen our technical indicator sets, do our in-year amendments, and then obviously create the folders to illustrate the evidence of these engagements, because these engagements are also then used by the Auditor General to see what we've done in terms of response to the audit findings of the previous year. Quarterly performance reports, well, we review targets versus performance as per the APP, but more importantly, we determine the quality of the data and the evidence, and we look for accuracy, completeness, and ensure that, you know, the data is verified against the evidence provided. And then obviously all of this ends up in the annual report, and ultimately the annual report then gets audited as part of the AGSA processes annually. This is just some images of the websites and our engagements and all of that, just to give the committee a sense of, you know, the work that's been done in the background. In terms of our QPR, in Q1, we've only managed to achieve one target, but that's, you know, we'd set the targets almost on an annual basis. So we've basically partially achieved, and just for the next few slides, we've basically set 5 quarterly targets in the APP out of the 52. And if a target is achieved, it means that the performance was greater than or equal to 100%, or alternatively, if it was partially achieved, it's between 50 to 100%. And when we say it's not achieved, it's less than 50%. So this is just evidence of our sign-offs and our processes of governance and oversight and rigor within the organization. And you'll see this for Q1, 2, and 3. So in Q2, we've achieved 4 of our 5 quarterly targets, and partially achieved the quarterly target. And in Q3, I'll explain what processes are being put in place to facilitate that. So similarly, same picture as in Q2, achieved the 5 indicators, and SOI 402, which is the number of therapists and specialist staff in special schools. That one is still partially achieved as of Q3. And so basically, as I mentioned, we've set 5 quarterly targets as per AP 425. In addition, 2 annual targets were due for reporting in Q2. Only one was subject to in-year amendment processes, and that is obviously, like I mentioned, the indicator number and title was the number of registered ECD facilities. The original target was 1450, and we've basically moved to fully registered. So the number of fully registered ECD targets, and reduced the target to 750. The reason behind this is we had a mass registration drive in the organization as in alignment with the DBE strategy to register as many facilities as we can. And as we were registering these facilities, we basically realized that, you know, we're not getting the commensurate evidence to support the actual mass registration drive processes and then support the number that we've put as a target. So we've basically changed that, and we're reviewing how we actually report on this going forward as well. So just at a very high level, 6 of the 7 targets were achieved, and the one that was partially achieved, we had a performance output of 311 against a target of 320. This was due to staff vacancies, as staff has been absorbed in other positions elsewhere, and a process of recruitment and selection is underway to fill vacant posts, and it's envisaged that the annual target will be achieved before the end of this financial year. So this is just at a very high level again, the quarterly performance for Q3 for each of these indicators. To note that POI 501 is now discontinued as of Q3 and is replaced by POI 502, which is the fully registered ECD facilities. So just in terms of progress against annual targets, and I've put all of the supporting evidence as annexes as opposed to going through each program in the committee to support this one slide over here. So there are 52 non-financial performance indicators, as I mentioned. 9 of these targets have already been achieved based on evidence received to date. 21, because we monitor this on a quarterly basis in Q1, 2, and 3, and we receive the evidence. And as we review this, we also determine the likelihood of achieving it. 21 of these targets are likely to be achieved, and 22 of these targets only gets reported in Q4. So evidence and data in support of achievement of these targets are stored as part of evidence files for audit and verification purposes. And then the performance tables, as I mentioned earlier, are next below, which includes the changes made in the in-year amendments. Just some concluding remarks. We've complied with all the requirements and recommendations at a very high level in terms of our submissions of QPRs on the EQPR process, as was evidenced in the previous slides, and that was to .P and DBE, sorry. And evidence provide as well as planned performance for Q4 suggests that the department will achieve most of its performance targets, if not all. And then evidence of for most of the targets within program 7, which is our curriculum, which are mainly outcome targets. You have output targets and outcome targets, and the outcome targets are largely within the curriculum program, which is program 7, that deals with systemic test results and the NSC results as well. These will only be reported on in Q4, and therefore does not form part of our means of providing a projected approach. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much to you, Mr. De Vega, for that. I think, certainly it is good to see the work that is being done in terms of the quarterly reviews. And, certainly we're looking forward to, as you've indicated, that we'll hopefully achieve all of our targets by the end of the year. I thank you very much for those reports then. And I didn't mention right at the outset that, as per usual, we expect our members just to make some notes of the questions or the issues that they wish to raise. And I accordingly then want to open up to members on any questions or comments that they may have on this presentation, bringing us up to the third quarter and also giving us a view into the fourth quarter of the financial year. Okay, so I don't know who wishes to comment first of all. I see member Windvogel's hand is up or was up. If that was you. Any other comments there? Right, I'm not seeing hands at this stage. I think what is certainly important to me is I know that the AG did have a number of comments in the 23-24 annual report in relation to performance targets and so forth. And obviously we're looking forward to having that being remedied or at least lessened some of those comments that the AG did have. I did notice with the flow charts and so forth that were produced for us, it did very much look like the London Underground in terms of the complexity of dealing with all of these issues. So I think that's is certainly laudable that we are working towards those level of improvements. I do see Member Van Voorgel and then Member Masipa.
Thank you so much, Chair. Let me first welcome the presentation. Chairperson, I'm concerned that only 2 out of the 8 programs are meeting their targets. And the underperformance of the last 2 programs on the slide is it's alarming. And furthermore, the underspending of conditional grants is a reoccurring issue. While I appreciate the presenter's acknowledgement of this problem, I would like to know what new and concrete measures will be implemented to address these challenges and ensure we meet our targets moving forward. And secondly, Chairperson, I also want to take us to slide 18. That's the progress against 5 quarterly targets. It was repeated on Q1. I want to understand, has the department done any work to determine the number of ECDs facilities that are unregistered? And we will also love to get a breakdown of this per district and what is being done to address such challenge. And then, did the department take the matter of unregistered ECDs into consideration when it was planning and setting targets? Then lastly, Chair, if we look at I think it's slide 17, I'm not sure 18 or 17, but nevertheless, let me move to slide 27. I'm speaking about the quarterly performance. Could you explain the reason for the change to this indicator and why was the number revised downwards? Yeah, thank you so much, Chair.
Yeah, thanks. I think we'll give the department a chance to respond to that. I think Member Masipa has his hand up, so I think we'll take his questions or comments, and then we'll give WCED an opportunity to respond.
Thank you, Chair. And also I just want to say thank you to the presenters and really welcome the work that is being done in this department. I think it's quite a big department with many challenges. Chair, with regards to the management oversight, the talk about the strengthening the predetermined objectives. I just want to get an understanding because the presenter did indicate that they are looking at improving these outcomes and talks about the gaps that are there that exist and that they are busy, addressing these gaps. I just want to get a feel as to what are these gaps that are really creating these challenges and in terms of the specifics around addressing these gaps. And I'm saying this because some of the reports did indicate that, the space for learners, learners are congested in classrooms because of the challenges with the budget cuts and obviously the teacher situation and so forth. I just want to get a feel as to what are these particular gaps that are really being spoken about. And I mean, obviously, Honorable Van Voorgel touched the issue of the ECD. I used to have a constituency in Kailicha, and I know a number of those ECDs in those areas
are not registered, and even the conditions of those ECD are not really conducive for learners, especially at their age. Yeah, any outbreak of disease could be a huge disaster. So those are my comments and questions, Honourable Chair. Thank you.
Thanks very much. I think those are useful areas there that have been highlighted. So I think just handing over to you, Mr. Eli, and your team to respond.
Yeah, thank you, Chairperson, and thank you to the two members for the questions as well, Chairperson. I think history also is an important factor in when we report around certain things, whether it's financials or predetermined objectives. Just to say that in the last year, the department for the first time achieved 100% spend on all its conditional grants. So obviously, Chairperson, we are on track to make sure we can achieve the same or achieve the same. And so, yeah, I think the managers involved here knows what now to do to make sure we get there. But I'll ask Mr. Mpisi later on just to speak about that, just in terms of the measures we've implemented there to make sure that we can, achieve those objectives as Member Rachel Wimple has indicated. Then, Chairperson, I was going to say, Mr. De Vega will also then comment on the PDO queries. But can I just say, Chair, around the ECD sites? ECD sites, as the last member indicated, there are particular requirements that those sites need to meet before they are registered. Obviously, as a department and with certain assistance, we are trying to make sure that those sites meet all the requirements. However, there's also the aspect about the local government or the municipality that needs to provide that level of approval as well, because there are also safety issues involved, health and safety issues involved there. And so then it becomes incumbent just to make sure, yeah, that they meet those requirements and we can register that. What I'm trying to make, Chairperson, it's quite a process to get a site to be registered. Yes, we have unregistered sites, but I think we are trying to make sure that we try to broaden our horizon to make sure that some of these sites that's unregistered also can become registered and then also meet all the necessary requirements that goes together with that. But I'll first hand over to Mr. Mpisi just to respond to the issue about conditional grants and performance around that in terms of the underperforming, in terms of 2 of the 8 programs. And then I'll hand over to Mr. De Vega just to respond to the PDO matters as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Eli. We acknowledge the questions. As alluded to the program performance, it is receiving the necessary attention. Post to December outlook, there has been an improvement, and the underperformance was only on one program. The other one, it was actually more overspending. As I've said, it was due to the rollover of projects from 23-24 and better performing of capital projects in general in terms of program 6 and program 7 as well. I alluded to the reason for the overspending when you are looking at the target. Then the program 4 underspending, said the major reason there was the legal agreements which have been concluded with the schools, and the expenditure should now pick up. Now, in terms of the conditional grants, there has been engagements, one-on-ones, including with the accounting officer and the CFO, including top management, where program managers provided recovery plans, if I may give it from that context, in terms of the interventions that they are going to put in place and where interventions are dependent on procurement. There was also an assessment in terms of the lead time it would take for procurement to conclude, and where there were further risks, there was also backup plans that were provided, which were looked at to be sound. Just to give a historical context as well, Chair, is WCD for the past 2 financial years, we have had 100% spending on all our conditional grants. So the current dip was informed by different dependencies. And this is on the radar as red flag to the HOD, who is having constant engagements in terms of, we are now at weekly monitoring. And when we are getting into March month, we'll be monitoring the spending daily in terms of making sure that the commitments, they are actually being implemented. Thank you, Chair. Mr. Tiveka?
Hi, Chair. So just in terms of response, I'll start with the gaps first. So the gaps that we identified are things like, creating electronic dashboards and creating the electronic submissions and databases so that we can digitally collect the information and digitally report on that. So those are almost like IT digital related process of strengthening the process. Also within WCED, there are 2 people that's really reviewing this in this very big organization. So what I had to do was almost create what I call a cross-functional team. And because I'm responsible for research, data, and all of that, I basically pulled in people from research, from the data environment, knowledge management, and so forth, and the policy space to come and assist the M&E or the monitoring and reporting staff to ensure that we can bolster an approach and start appointing what I call program leads within the structure. So in terms of human resource capabilities and capacity, there's gaps there, but it's fulfilled through an innovative kind of restructuring of staff. And then the responsibility managers that we assign to each of these, there's a steep learning curve for them to embrace, kind of the audit environment, but also what's the evidence? Why is the TID and every word within the TID important? And how do we actually then set targets and all of that? And the team are taking them through that and facilitating. So these are, when I say gaps, these are the things that we are working with and facilitating to ensure that we create accountability, but also sustainability over the long term. Because you can, get a clean audit 1 year, and then the following year, if you just take your hand off it, then the system crashes because it's one person kind of holding everything together. So it's creating that sustainability context. Just in terms of, I think, I'm not sure, Chair, was I covered by Mr. Eli in terms of the changes to ECD, or should I provide additional information there? Thanks, Chair.
I think perhaps there's a need just to explain a little bit further on the ECD. Obviously starting with 1,450 and then readjusting and making those adjustments down to 750. Okay, so basically the full cohort, or the fully registered cohort of facilities were part of the registered, because you have either full or conditionally registered facilities. Now, because this is an audited environment that we're working within in terms of the APP and all of that, the responsibility manager, having obviously approached us and said, what we're seeing is there's a steep, the number of sites unregistered as well as conditionally registered is murky, and the requirements therefore is also quite a bit to contain and manage and facilitate and report on. And the mass registration drive in itself, in its processes, we don't get all the documentation. So we will register,
but then we're not getting the documentation commensurate to their registration processes. And by facilitating processes around, the master registration drive and then wanting to report on this indicator, we felt that it's best that we only focus this indicator on the fully registered, because in that way we can accurately report on it. But at the same time, we do hold a record for all the other registrations that we are actually driving within the organization. So it's really one of strengthening the indicator in the current climate of mass registration drives, Chair, because it just muddies the water when we're pulling in more and more facilities that we cannot verify and validate, and therefore might cause problems from an audit perspective. But from a management perspective, we are still looking and reporting on both of these functions, but not as stringent as what the auditor would basically look at it when it comes down to physically having to report on it. So it's more from a strengthening the indicator to be able to report more effectively on it, Chair. Thanks.
Thank you. Yeah. Look, certainly it would appear that what one is sitting with are, if we could call it the first league ECDs, and then you've got a second league that somehow or other are going to have to be tackled as well to get them up to that higher level in due course. So it certainly sounds as if there's it's not work that can be done in 1 year. It's probably going to take a period of time to be able to get all of those ECDs up to the required level of registration. That's as I'm seeing it. I see Member Masipa's hand. I don't know if that's a legacy hand, because if it is a legacy hand, it's probably quite a tired hand right now. But possibly Member Masipa's got some further queries, and just looking to see from other members if they want to add to this debate. Also notice that Member Stevens is with us now. I know at some stage Member Stevens had a problem in connecting onto the platform. Member Masipa.
Thanks, Chair. This is just a follow-up on the question that I initially raised. Chair, I think the gap with regards to, obviously, the issue was addressed regarding the ECD, that there is a level of local government. But I think I just want to come back to say, what is the department doing to collaborate with these municipalities to just ensure that this ECDs comply? Because at the end of the day, they are seen as a government of the Western Cape Department of Education affiliates, because I mean they pose quite a danger if they don't comply, one, and they are naming themselves as obviously ECD. They are known in the community as ECDs, like you have got bogus colleges that operate under the name of that they are offering education for Department of Higher Education. So I think really the question for me, Chair, is what is the government doing to really ensure that it collaborates well with the municipality to ensure that either they assist this ACD to speedily comply, or if they don't comply, they get a notice to obviously stop operating as ECD under the conditions that most of them operate, which are not conducive to be education center, because they are seen as education center. The second one, Chair, is around the HIV. Obviously, I see there is this line program, the program 7, HIV/AIDS program. I just wanted to know if I do not know the details about what this program entails, but I just wanted to know if they have got any partnership with USAID, if there is that partnership, what has happened after obviously this announcement of the withdrawal of the USAID in South Africa. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks very much, Member Masipa. Yes, I think you've raised an interesting question there in terms of that level of collaboration and working together with municipalities to ensure then that the various ECDs are in line in terms of the sort of services that they need to have at those facilities and so forth. So that is probably an interesting one for the WCED. I don't see any other hands at this stage. I think I'll hand over to Mr. Eli and his team, and then just find out if there are any further questions in a third round, which then we can take that as our final round of questions there. Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you, Chairperson, and thank you to the member for the question. Just around the latter question around the HIV/AIDS program, just to say in terms of short that this program is not affected by the USAID AIDS program. It's mainly the Department of Health and Wellness that gets affected by that particular program. Our HIV program is obviously part of the provincial and also the national strategy of dealing with HIV/AIDS. So our program is dealing with training and awareness, obviously at school level, and the supply of particular materials as well. But that comes from a conditional grant. But again, it's at the school level, and it's got to do with providing training mainly at the school level and awareness as well. So that's just in a nutshell, Chairperson, around the HIV/AIDS program. Then as far as the ECD registration process is concerned, I think, Chairperson, I think you've alluded to that fact. It's quite a long and tedious process because there's also money involved to get these ECD sites up to a particular standard, which means they have to fund themselves to, my understanding is, to get to that level. As far as health and safety is concerned and so forth. I'm obviously cognizant of, in some cases, the communities that they serve. But again, we have, in the past, Chairperson, we have had some assistance where we've approached NGOs to assist the department with these ECD sites to get them up to a particular point where they can fully comply and therefore be registered. The registration on our side is important because then we can then obviously provide them with a subsidy for those learners as well, in terms of educational needs and then also in terms of food as well. But again, Chairperson, that is as you indicated, it's not something that can happen within a few months. It is a process, and then once we feel we're happy with where they are, then we obviously approach the municipality, and we also have to, we also assist there with the application process there as well, Chairperson. The staff members that actually works in this particular area are not on this platform in terms of, we thought we're going to just report on obviously the PDOs and the financials, but I think, Chairperson, if there's more information required, we're obviously willing to get those staff members of us that works with this particular area that can provide the committee with more detailed information around the ECD sector, the processes they employ, and what the department is doing and research sites are sitting, and what the department is doing on a daily basis together with the municipalities to make sure we can register these sites, and then also then obviously provide a subsidy to them as well. Because again, as I said, once they are registered, we as a department, we then provide them with a subsidy as well, which they obviously, I would imagine, need as well. So Chairperson, that's in terms of those two questions. I'm not sure if there's a follow-up as well. Thank you.
Yes, thanks very much, Mr. Eli. I think the discussion on the ECDs and to be able to get them up to standard is certainly an interesting and important one that needs to be encouraged and supported. And it's probably something that the committee will just deliberate on and see what what we could perhaps do there to help and facilitate that whole process. To me, it certainly would seem to be an opportunity to try and encourage the NGOs to get involved there. And I imagine the WCED would be able to have some form of set of guidelines or a checklist or a template for the type of factors that would be looked at to get that level of full registration, because it's certainly something that is of importance and needs to be encouraged as we are moving into this more important area of grade R, and to help our learners being school ready. I see Member Walters' hand up. Is there anyone else who wishes to ask questions? I think you can go ahead, Member Walters.
Chair, I think you're on the same wavelength as myself. It would be good to see a breakdown of, call it ECDs, NGOs assisting them, what the progress is and what the expenditure is and how many children are benefiting. I think that would be a couple of key indicators like that would be useful. So I support what you are saying in that regard.
Thank you. At this stage, I'm not seeing any further hands. And I think what I would then like to thank the department, thank Mr. Eli and his team for this presentation and bringing us up to speed as to where the department is as of the third quarter. And I think we all realize, being in the fourth quarter now, which is the big quarter in terms of admissions and getting the school year going again, and at the same time the work that would need to be done to prepare the annual report and the review of what has taken place in terms of performances throughout the year. So I must say I'm very encouraged by the work that has been taking place to improve that level of authentication and auditing and checking to make sure that we as a department reach our performance targets for the year. So thank you very much for being with us this afternoon, Mr. Eli and your team. And you can now be released and get back, I'm sure, to other activities that you need for the day. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Chairperson, and thank you to the members as well. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, members. Bye.
Bye-bye. I think the team has left now, so I think we can then obviously move on to resolutions and actions, and perhaps just some reflection on what we've had, and then moving to any resolutions that we may wish to adopt, or recommendations or requests for information, and that we can perhaps just deal with there. Certainly I think it has been valuable to have received the third quarter results to understand where the department is in terms of the various timing factors that one has in dealing with each of their programs, in dealing with conditional grants and the effect of rollovers that do take place, and then being able to manage that budget and the various performance indicators in this last quarter as we move to the end of the year. The issues on the ECD, I think obviously something that we can have a look at and possibly gain a greater understanding, because I think we've also sit with the impact of grade R coming into the system. And I think it has been indicated to us previously that the level of funding that is required to make that a success has not really been forthcoming out of the DBE. So that's also an issue that probably needs attention. And then we're also fully aware that if we are to improve our level of education, it is critical that more time and effort is spent on ECDs and on grade R in preparation for grade 1 and the other grades at school. So yes, any comments from members of the committee here on how we take ourselves forward? Member Walters.
Chair, I would just like to be clear, what you suggested is a series of recommendations. I just want to be sure that I understand correctly before I proceed.
Yes, I think, look, to me, one is possibly just reflecting on having received the third quarter results. So, and as you know, we received from a financial point of view and a non-financial point of view. And I think what, to me, I must say, I do feel reasonably comfortable that the work that has been undertaken there, we seem to be on target, or mostly on target for the year. The second aspect that I felt was also important in receiving this review and this briefing related to the concerns that the AG had at the time of last year's annual report, that there were possibly some of those performance indicators where I think they were wanting to see the department applying more diligence, if I could use that terminology, in making sure that the measurements were a lot more accurate. And I think what has been indicated to us is that certainly those efforts appear to be taking place in terms of how they have set out this whole performance process, as they indicated on that aspect in trying to deal with the gaps. So I think we need to, it's commendable there that what the department has done. And then I think the third area is what we've now seen on the ECDs, in the difficulty that we may have a certain number of ECDs who've gone part of the way in becoming registered, and that the department has then indicated that, look, there is a certain level of criteria that is needed before you become fully registered, and therefore measuring on that basis. But certainly we need to encourage the department then to look at that next level that still need to become fully registered, and there's perhaps an element of work that needs to be undertaken in that area. I don't know if that's helps or guides the process.
Yeah, Chair, so I support that. I would suggest then that maybe just as a recommendation that the department provides us with a regular breakdown of the progress. I did mention it in the meeting, but the progress of I don't want to use the, I'm also looking for the right terminology, but reporting on the progress around ECDs. I think that to me is what came out of this meeting. And yeah, I just think, and I want to thank Member Masipa and Member Windvogel for introducing that into the conversation. I think it might be the kind of thing and the kind of information that helps us adjust to a changing landscape in the future. So thank you very much. That's my proposal.
Yes, I think, thank you for that. I think what we should, the department could probably also indicate what the type of guidelines are and the requirements that would be necessary for ECDs to become fully registered, and perhaps also give some thoughts or ideas to what and how NGOs could possibly be of assistance to NGOs to become fully registered. If we could add that. I also see Member Masipa's hand.
Chair, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, Chair, I think here's my suggested resolution on the ECD. Maybe the Chair to request a briefing on ECD from the Department of Education. So that's one. But also in that to include how they collaborating with municipalities and the NGO in order to ensure that the ECDs are fully compliant and registered with obviously the department and with the local government where they operate. I think those are the two recommendations that I think, you Chair can consider. Thanks.
Yes, I certainly think so. I would imagine that Ms. Hassan Musa has been writing with both hands there to try and note down what we have said. And in general, if that is where we are going, then we can in due course then sort of craft the type of resolution that we can then circulate for approval when we approve the minutes of this meeting, if that is acceptable to members. I don't see any hands. Are we generally happy with that? I see one thumbs up there. Okay, if we've got another one or two, then I think we could be in agreement.
I second the proposal, Chair.
Okay, excellent. And I see Member Boyson as well. So I think that should cover most of these aspects. I'm going to just revert to procedural officer, just to indicate if there's anything else that we need to try and capture out of this meeting.
Chair, thank you. There's nothing at this time. We've covered everything. I will draft the recommendations that have come from this meeting and circulate it to all the members for the approval.
Okay, thank you very much. And I think that then in effect brings us to the end of this meeting. I see it's about almost 2:15. So I think that is possibly time for late lunch for members of the committee. So I want to thank everybody for their attendance today and their participation in this meeting, and accordingly adjourning the meeting at 2:15 on today, the 20th of February. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Chair.
Adopted.
Thank you. Bye-bye.